be honest, how much time did you spend to write your master thesis or PhD thesis research proposal? I can guarantee you it wasn't done in an afternoon. And if you're a consultant, kind of tell me, how much time does it take you to write customized proposals to each one of your clients? For me, it takes hours and hours and hours, and I can guarantee you it's not something that I really much enjoy. But what if I told you there is a very easy way that you can, at the click of a button, generate a high quality research proposal or proposal to your client, right? That's in your tone of voice, that draws from your information, that helps generate high quality reports in your brand guidelines that's ready to kind of like submit. So in today's little tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to easily create your very first artificial intelligence agent, right? That can generate these reports and things for you. So let's get started. We're using a little program called N8N. It's free to use. You can download it. You can run it on your own PC. You can also host it on the cloud. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and it helps you to create these very easy to understand workflows to get you from an idea to a high quality report that's in your guidelines, brand guidelines, with your content, ready to submit for your clients or your PhD supervisor. Okay, so let's kind of start with demonstrating how this thing works. So I just built a small little bot in Telegram to kind of indicate how this works. So here's my little bot. His name is OptiBot. So we're going to click start. When we click start, it basically tells us, oh, hi, I'm OptiBot. My main function here is to help you generate a high quality research proposal based on the idea that you said. I'm going to help you clarify things. I'm going to generate a nice PDF for you, and I'm going to send it to you via email and via chat. All I need from you is to tell me a little bit about what you want to research. Okay, so I've already kind of like got an idea. I say I want to understand and investigate the relationship between happiness performance in the Dutch healthcare system. Maybe I want to specifically focus on nurses because they're very stressed, and I also want to see if their managerial roles moderates the relationship between happiness and performance. Perhaps I want to use structural equation modeling. Okay, so now we send this message to the bot. Okay, I have to continue the workflow. So what happens then is that message gets sent through, it gets changed into a way that our little agent understands. Our first agent takes that query and changes it in a way that we can generate 2 or 3 or 4 different research questions from it. From that, our next AI agent then goes and it starts to create the proposal for us. From this process, it goes through, it generates a PDF for us, and it emails it to us, and it sends it to our chatbot. So as you can see here, it just sent the email. This is kind of what you did. Hi, thank you very much. This is the title of your thing. Again, in the Northwest University's brand guidelines, and attached you'll find your research proposal. Very high quality, very straightforward, gives you a theoretical foundation for the things that you want, the methodology that you need to follow, how many people you need, the scales that you're going to use, the techniques you're going to use to analyze it, some ideas about ethical guidelines, and this potential contribution of your study with your references and some suggested reading. Okay, so that's kind of how this thing works in practice. It also sends it to you in the chat, and you can tell it thank you if you just want to download it. Right, so how did we go about doing this? So it was pretty straightforward. When we want to kind of like create the workflow, it's always important to kind of like map out the process in as much detail as possible, right? So, and I mean in every single step of the way, you need to be able to have a specific idea that what you want to do. So in a high level, we wanted to say, we wanted a message to be sent via Telegram, and from that message, we wanted to be able to generate a full functioning research proposal that is sent to us in different ways, okay? So there are 3 main components here. The one is the message, right? That we kind of like send, and the message is sent through, changed in the way that the bot understands. The second part here is that we need to, sometimes you don't understand what you want or what you want to research, right? Or what you kind of want to indicate. So we have to create a bot to help change this thing for us in a way that can make sense to someone that you want to ask to do the research for you. Okay, so we created a little bot to change your very high level query into a very structured, very highly indicated prompt, basically, that it gives another AI agent to go and research. And from this bot, the process goes on. Okay, so the first part is we had a Telegram trigger, and in here we just put our credentials in. This is pretty standard. This is the message you're going to send, and when a person sends a message, this thing comes out, right? So that's kind of what I wrote. Then I just created a if statement to basically say that if a message is basically clean, so it's a new one, a start, so it's the first time that we're chatting around it, then I want you to send the instructions. So if that's the case, I want you to send these instructions. And these instructions basically say, hi, this is the situation, this is what I want to do, right? And this is what I kind of like need from you in order to help me help you, right? So this is the first time. If it's not the first time, or if that message has already been sent, then the workflow starts. So the first thing we kind of like need to do is we need to kind of give these things specific names, right? Because it's easier for us later on in the process to call these names back. And to be able to get these things, we just drag the queries. So for example, here, right, I just drag the text into this column and I just give it a name. I call it query, right? The same thing with our ID. This is important because you'll see in a moment, we're going to use this to create a sort of like a memory bank so we can continuously talk to it if we want to refine things. So I just use the text ID, the chat ID as the ID number, right? And I want to make sure that my name, Psycho Squirrel, is consistently taken throughout the context. So I just put my first name in there. So basically what we're just doing here is we're creating a specific name, just a normal name, for these functions, right? And again, you don't need to be able to program to be able to do this. Just drag and drop. Okay. So that's the first part. The second part is then, well, we renamed those functions, but I also kind of want to change this query into a way that our models can understand. So basically, I want to continue my name and my session ID, right? Because this is the stuff that we have to take through each step to ensure that the things link. But I want to be able to take my query, right? And once I submit it, to change it into lowercase, clean it up a little bit, to make it more understandable for our AI. Okay, so that's the part. Then I just used ChatGPT to help me write a small little code, and because now I've got these little names that I've indicated, and all I wanted was I wanted to input this information, right? But I wanted it everything in lowercase. If there's missing values there, I wanted that taken out. I wanted to make sure that all the spacing is correct. So all that I basically just said was, ChatGPT, can you please write me a small little code that can make everything lowercase, clean up the data a little bit so that we can use it for another AI. And it spit this out for me, right? Excellent. Okay, perfect. Now we've got our message and it's in the right format. Now we get to the fun stuff. So this is an AI agent, right? And an AI agent is basically, it's not just a ChatGPT, right? It does need a brain. So we have OpenAI here, right? But it also needs some memory, right? Because otherwise it won't remember who you are. So we create a very short, simple memory module for it. And then there's certain tools that you can use to kind of help you with whatever the agent wants to do. In this case, the tool I wanted the tool to output data in a very specific format for me. We call it a JSON. Now, a JSON file is basically just a very structured way to present data for us. And I just indicate, I put this thing in, it's like I wanted the structured data node, and I wanted to have the output in a couple of things. I wanted my topic, for example, the idea that we sent, and please go and look for 8 different search queries. So I want you to be able to output that information for me like this. Okay. I added a little memory module there, basically saying that from the chat messages that we have, so remember all of that chat messages that we sent via Telegram, I want you to remember that, and I want you to remember up to 50 of them, right? You can go as much as your RAM can take. So I just said 50 because we want to kind of like continue and have a conversation about it if the proposal is not correct. But the most important part here is the brain of the outfit. So in this case, I added my OpenAI account, and the brain that I'm using is the GPT 4.1 Nano, right? The small little model. It's very fast. It's very straightforward. And it gives you a lot of bang for your buck. It's also the cheapest model that you can run. But you can use any of the other models as well. They're all just a little bit more expensive. But for this purposes, the Nano model kind of works. Okay, so now we've got our agent. It's got a brain, it's got some memory, and it knows it needs to output data in a certain way. But what is its function? Okay, so what does it do? And this is kind of where prompt engineering comes in. So how to write really good prompts. So remember, in a very good prompt, we always talk about the role that the person plays in the beginning, right? So you're a specialist in this area. You have the task that they want to achieve. I want you to do the following for me. Given the user's like clean topic, output exactly 8 sophisticated search phrases that you put together in theory, gaps, blah, 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 right? That is kind of like the task I want you to do for me. So I want you to take this query, structure it in a way that we can search 8 different things online, okay? And then what is the output? So role, task, output. I want this stuff outputted in this specific format. I want a topic, right? And I'm just basically saying in JSON format, I just put this little bracket in and I say I want the topic, because that's the name of the thing we want. And I want you to put that verbatim query there. And then I'm created a name called search queries. It's just the name that I gave it. And say, okay, well, from the search queries, I want you to go search these things. Okay? And these are the things that we've mentioned in that structure of ours a little earlier. Okay, so we've got the role, we've got the task, we've got the output, and here's the context. So that's the anatomy of a good prompt. So the context is basically the rules that we want to give, or if there's additional information. So here I basically say is like, for every query that I give you, I want you to go find some theoretical models. I want you to find some studies between 2020 and 2025. I want to make sure that you understand the measurement, the methodology, the target audience, and etc. So keep all of these things in mind with every single query that we have, right? And then please go and use advanced operators where helpful. So for example, if you want a title, put it in this way. If you want a meta-analysis, put it in that way. But do not exceed 120 characters per line. Otherwise, it becomes too complex for the next bot. Okay, so that is basically what we're asking this specific bot now to do for us. So it's taking this information, right? If I click test here, you'll see it runs it. So it takes this information, it goes to our model, it thinks about it, it stores it in our memory, and it phrases it appropriately. So it outputs it for us in this format. Okay, so now we kind of have our bot in place. Now this bot hands it over to a next bot. And similar to this bot, this AI agent basically has different functions. So this AI agent's function is to actually go and search the internet for different resources, for different ways, for different articles to help us to generate the context, to generate the proposal for us. So here we hand over the search query. So its output is basically 8 potential ways to Google it, right? With some more information. And now we're going to actually start running the search. So again, in this case, in this spot, we've got 2 prompts. There's the prompt that comes from the user. So that's like what you would do with ChatGPT. And there's something that we do in the background. In this case, I made it pretty straightforward to just make it the same, just to kind of demonstrate the purpose. So again, remember the anatomy of a good prompt, the role. You are a world-leading academic researcher with over 1,000 publications in high-quality journals and high-impact factor journals. Your primary task is to help young researchers clarify their research ideas and structure them into an executable research strategy that culminates in a publishable short research proposal. That is the role. The task, your primary task, what do we want it to do, is to perform an exhaustive scholarly review and write a high-quality publishable research proposal on this topic. And this topic, I just took and I dragged this in because that is our cleaned topic, right? So I just basically moved this, I just basically moved this in there. And there it is. And on this side, you can basically see what happens if that's in there, right? So it's literally just drag and drop. It looks difficult, but it's not. Okay? So role, task, output. I want, using all of the search queries and stuff that you've had, perform a targeted literature search and craft a compelling research proposal. I want you to output it in this format for me because I want the title like my research proposals structure. A title, introduction, a problem statement, research questions, literature review, the methodology, the ethics, the contributions, the extra reading. Okay, so that's kind of how I want the stuff outputted. So remember, role, task, output. And here's the context, the detail. So I want you to, and this is where you can give as much detail as you want. I say in the title, use 10 to 15 words, capture the independent variable, dependent variable context, and the method if it's relevant. So I explain just what in each one of these factors should be, in each one of these things that we want to generate, right? Research questions 2 to 4, make sure that it's clear, make sure that everything is aligned, blah, blah, blah. The structure here doesn't matter that much. I just use these little things to make it easier for me to understand. Okay, and then these are the rules, right? So these are the hard rules, the context that it should not, that it should always follow. So I say go to Crossref, Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, search for them. Identify at least one explicit research gap. Output only the JSON, only this thing. I only want that. I don't want things before and after, right? Always use plain text. Always ensure that you keep the highest level of scientific integrity. Make sure that there's a golden thread between all of these aspects. So there's a storyline, and the proposal outline should be of high quality, right? And the very strict rules, like for me, is always say, well, adhere to the names exactly, no extras, no omissions, right? Use APA in-text citations, and do not mention anything above and outside of the JSON. Because usually when you ask ChatGPT to do something, it gives you an output. And it says, oh, based on your query, this is kind of like the output. It gives it to you, and at the end, it gives you a summary. We don't want that, right? Okay. So that is what our prompt does, our user prompt. And our system prompt, that's the thing that the agent in the background is doing, is exactly the same here. Okay. So with that said, we added a little bit more. I added the nano here, but we can make it a little bit more complex if you want a little bit more depth. Remember, each one of these models is a little bit more expensive than the other. So let's just say, for example, I'm going to use mini here. Okay. So I just give it a brain. Then, and it's pretty easy, right? So all that you basically do if you want to add something is that you just click on this thing, you search for OpenAI chat model, and there you've added it. You don't even have to do anything. That is it. That's all that you have to do. And now it's added, right? I can just delete this one now. Okay, delete it. Ooh, sorry, it is very far away from me now. Okay, so that's our brain. Again, because potentially the person wants to chat a couple of times around the proposal, I just basically said that there's 50 chats that we remember, just like before. And again, I gave it a structured outline. I want it to be structured. Oh, sorry. My bad. I gave it 50 memory here so that it kind of like can understand what we're kind of like saying. So this is kind of like our model, our chat model, and our memory. But now there's two additional things here, because now this bot can talk, it can think, it can structure things and remember stuff. But we also wanted to go search the internet. So I gave it two search tools. The first one was Google Scholar, because I wanted to go run the search on Google Scholar. But unfortunately, you can't directly run these things on Google Scholar. So there's a free API that you can use, SERPy API, that can basically gives you a lot of free queries every month. So basically all you do is you just click and register. See, I can do 100 free searches a month, right? I'm at 80 now, so thank God we looked at this. Otherwise I could not do this demo for you. And all that you basically just do is you just copy this API after you've registered. That's it. That's easy. Just copy this API and add it at the bottom here. Okay, I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So right at the bottom, oh, sorry. It's you have to create credentials. You go to credentials, and then you just basically add it in here. And then it's there, and it's there forever. Okay, so that's just the description. Here's the URL, because this is basically the search query that we kind of like run. So it uses this little URL, just like Google, because it says this is Google's thing. This is what we're going to do, search, and this is the engine that we're going to use. And this you get directly from here, and you can just use this as is. And what we want to search is that thing that we had before, right? So I just drag and drop that in here. Okay. That's not for Google Scholar, but I also wanted just to search the web in general, because sometimes the articles are there, but we can't access it. Okay. So here is Google. You can go to basically like Google and use your own API key for it. I just kept this blank for now because you don't steal mine. And then you can basically just add this in there, right? So you basically just add your link in, you add the query in, and it will then search the internet for your query. I'm just going to pause here so I can put my actual credentials in. Okay, I've added my API key. So my API key is now kind of like in. And once we kind of like hit run here, it's now going to take that query, right, process it, generate 8 different search strings for us, go to our bot, and then start searching it for us continuously, right? And as you can see, it's going quite long because we're using a different model here. So all of this is now done, and you can basically go into your bot and you can kind of see what the output is. So if you click on the JSON, remember it's just structured, here's all of the information that it's generated for us based on the query that we've got in that JSON format that we did before. So from that, we can just continue. So in this phrase, all I'm basically doing is I just want to change this weird output into an output that we can understand. So I basically just said, we're going to create a constant, right? And this constant is called output string, so we're giving it a name. And then I just basically said the input from this thing, right? I want it in that format, right? So I just gave these two things a name, and I just told it like, if you have this in place, provide me with an output looking like this, the JSON on the one end and the output on the other end. Okay, easy. And you can just ask ChatGPT to do that for you. It's just for me to make it easier. Then from all of this, let's click test. We ask, okay, well, from all of this, what information do we want to take from this for our proposal, and in what format? So I basically just drag these things in. I wanted all of them, the title, the introduction, the problem statement structure, the research questions, all of these little things and the references, I just drew in there. I didn't want anything else. So I just drew all of those things in here, right? So I basically did this. And then it's there. Okay, so now there's 2 of them at the end. So just drag them in there. It's nothing difficult. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is we're just going to test it and see what happens. So when we test it, it only takes all of this information and structured it in a very nice way in the exact format that we're going to use for our proposal in the next. In the next little section, all that we did was now we're kind of like generating the content for the proposal, and here it's literally saying into ChatGPT, I have these things, name them, and can you provide me with a structure for a proposal in JavaScript. That's it. And it gave me this. First time, clicked run. There's everything very nicely statted, very nicely paraphrased, and this is exactly how it's going to look in our proposal. Now we have that done. Now all that we do is we have to take all of the information that we kind of like had before and put them together in one file. Okay, so that the data that it uses now is kind of the thing that it's using to populate the PDF for that matter. And basically all that you just did here was I said we aggregate all of the information to a higher level. We're going to call this data, and we take all of these fields and put them into one JSON called data. Okay, that's the difficult part. Now it's the easy part. We generate the PDF. Now, unfortunately, you can't generate PDFs by yourself, and it can't do that. So I also created an API key for PDF Shift. This is just a temporary one, right? So we go to PDF Shift.io, click on it, we log in or we register, and it gives us an API key, right? We just copy that API key because the API is the only way for us, for our little bot to talk to this thing. And this thing is going to generate a PDF for us based on the content that we gave. Okay, so that's that. I put my API key in here, right? And that's it. And I click test. So now what's happening is all of this information that's taken from the previous phase is now being generated into a HTML, and that's then being generated into a PDF. Of course, you want that PDF, right? So I just added a function, an edit function, and I said, what do I want? I want this thing in a PDF. So drag that in there. I want to download that file. So it downloads it now to our server or to our hard drive. And then the last part is for it to send it through. Here I added a Gmail because I wanted it to send it to my Gmail account. So I connected my Gmail here. I say it's a message that we want to have a send operator because that's to send something. This is the email address I want to use, right? This is the title, research proposal, and then I just dragged the title in from here. Where is that title? It was here somewhere. RU title. There we go. So just drag this title in there, or from the aggregate title, and then I click test. Oh, and also, if you just want to make it very more fancy, here's usually where you put the message in, and I just basically wanted to put it in the Northwest University's brand guidelines. So I gave it my brand guidelines before, and I said, listen, for ChatGPT, can you generate brand guidelines kind of for me based on this, and then write me an email that I can use in N8N to send this report to people. And it basically, in HTML code, generated this for me. Very nice. Okay. So now we send it, and it's sending to my email. Let's wait. There we go. And there is our research proposal. Right, exploring the relationship between happiness and performance amongst Dutch nurses and the moderating effect of that. Gives us a little bit of executive summary. Although prior research indicates positive link between this and this, we don't really know how this works within the Dutch healthcare system. Here's a couple of points because I specifically asked, like, what makes us unique? How can we sell it? So this is kind of how you're going to structure the problem statement with these 4 points. These are your research questions. Does it directly affect it? Does holding a managerial role moderate the relationship, etc. Here's the theoretical frameworks that you can use. You can use these as headings for your literature section. Here's the methodology that you're going to use, the instruments that you're going to try, and here is some ethical guidelines, expected contributions, references, etc. And it sends it to my chatbot as well automatically. So my chatbot then says, hi, congratulations, it's there. Give me a second and I'll send it to you. And it sends me the report as well. So basically, this is how you can quickly create two AI agents to literally optimize your entire research proposal workflow. Hopefully that helped. Let me know if you've got any questions. I'll make this available to you for free. Just download it in the comment below.